To begin animating the walk cycle, first thing I'll want to do is to organize and attach pegs and get everything properly connected so that I can animate easily. Now, I clicked on display, I had my network view toolbar up, and then I can click on the order up button, say order up. My drawing layer doesn't need a peg because I'm not going to animate that. I'm actually going to lock that. So I can, in my timeline down here, I can lock the drawing layer so that it now won't be affected when I work with things later. My other layers, I will want to add pegs to them, so Command-Shift-P adds in the pegs so that they're now connected. Now that we know that the connection is my upper leg will connect to my lower leg peg will connect to the foot, so I can build those connections. And now we can see upper leg, lower leg, foot, so upper leg, lower leg, foot. And now I have the torso. When I move the torso is going to affect both legs here, which actually we can let the torso be it, but if I want to rotate the torso independently of the legs, I could actually set up a master peg for the whole of my character, and then that controls both the torso, and then the torso can animate independently if it wants to move without affecting the legs. But for now, I think this will work. So I have upper leg controlling the lower leg, controlling the foot, upper leg controlling lower leg, controlling the foot. If you build connections and they end up where you didn't want them, you can always just grab it from its starting or ending, from its ending point, and disconnect the connection. So these connections we call pipes. So if I look at this pipe that's connecting it, I can disconnect that pipe as necessary or reconnect to my heart's content. So if I've done this, my network view is now done, and I can go back to my camera view. Nothing will have changed in my camera view, but things are now ready for me to start setting up my pivot points and getting those ready, and then I will be ready to start animating. Setting up my pivot points I can do using my rotation animation tool up here. And I have now selected my back foot. I will set up its pivot point so it's at the top of the ankle. Now, one thing that I can do to speed moving through a connected chain of pivot points is if I hit B on the keyboard, it now selects the next peg in the chain. If I hit Shift B, it goes down the chain. So I can go back up or down my connection chain as a quick way of setting up these relationships. So one leg is set up now to set up the other and the torso. I'll just keep moving over those pivot points. So I can decide that the upper torso is going to rotate from the hips, or it could rotate from the shoulders. It really doesn't. We have a lot of flexibility as to how we want to work with that. Now if I go to my other foot, line that foot up, can move that over. Again, B will allow me to move up that food chain of pegs. So once I have all of my pegs properly configured, I always find it's safe to go through and click on each one to verify that they are all in alignment. And once I have that, now at this point I am ready to start animating. All the pegs have been connected. We're ready to start animating. I can collapse my torso view or torso peg. I have my drawing layer. It's locked, so I don't mess with that. I'm going to go to frame 1 in the torso, and I will then hit F6 to add in a keyframe. Now I'm going to go on my timeline here, F5, extend those out. So now it's extended out, so now we can see the artwork. So now that I have this, what I can do is I can just move over a little bit. And it's easier in the beginning to just say go every 10 frames to correspond to each one of these drawings, even though that would be a super slow walk, but we can always pull those keyframes tighter later. So what I don't want to do is move over in time and then start moving around, because that won't add a keyframe for every layer, and we'll actually get some weirdness happening in the animation. So instead, I go out to say frame 10, hit F6, that now adds in a keyframe. And at this point, what I can do is I have a couple of options. One is I could just, while looking at the next drawing, I could start bending the legs to go with it. But what I'm going to be doing is sliding the character over to correspond. So I can slide over using translate, making sure that torso is my active peg up here. And my tool properties, if I use peg selection mode instead of artwork selection mode, then it's going to help guarantee when I click on things, if I click here, it chooses the peg. Now I can move this over, pull it down a little bit. Now we can see I need to bend the legs, because as he's stepping, the knees are bending. So the torso is coming down. As the torso comes down, I need to rotate and bend the legs so that the feet don't go through the ground. So if I go to my front leg here, and now I can switch to my rotation tool, and I can rotate that leg up, and Shift B will bring me down through my peg chain. So, it's not 100%. Oh, no, we don't want back, I want front. But it gets me, okay, now that leg is bent. Now if I go over to this leg, and we'll rotate the leg here, Shift B to get to the lower leg, Shift B, get the foot out. Now we can see, now with this we have a little sliding action going on as we're lining it up with each drawing. Now another possibility we can do, because then I will need to move everything back so that he's kind of walking in place, so we end up with the feet lining up like we see on top, is I could, from each drawing, I could move the template over and then realign my drawing. So both methods work. It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of another. You decide what works for you. I like doing this because I like to be able to see that motion, but he is going to get it. We will get a sense of sliding. So I clicked out at 20, I hit F6, and now with the torso active, under translate, I will now move. So he's going to stand up, straightening that front leg, not the back leg. Pull that over so I can grab it easier. So now I can grab rotate, rotate that leg, move down the chain, move down the chain, and for whatever reason this front foot does not want to play nice with this method. Back leg, rotate it forward, go the lower, and go to another 10 frames, F6. So as you can see, it starts to just become a little bit repetitive as we're doing this. Move the body over. Now if I want, I could put a little forward lean in here, because we notice the body does start to lean a little bit. That's entirely up to you and how you want to do it. And front foot. So that front foot is just being perennially difficult. It's being a bad egg, but that's all right. And then I will move into my final part to be the final half of my walk cycle. And one thing we'll learn is we can sometimes cheat on this is once you have a sequence, you can then copy out that series of frames, and then you can cheat and just reverse that set of frames, and that can sometimes be a way to speed up the animation process. So now I have half of my animation cycle done. I have a step. Now I can continue this process. I can slide the background drawing over and repeat the process of bringing it back together, but to get where we're now doing the kind of in place and that we can animate with this, this is where now I can take at each of these points, and now I'm going to translate them back so that the foot is now in alignment. So we're getting that bend. Now we need to slide it back again. And this is one thing you'll find as you do this is sometimes it requires you to do a little bit of sliding of the character so that the foot is almost starting to slide a little bit. You can see how the foot is sliding on the ground. And now we're really motoring over there. Get it behind a little bit. I'm going to pull that one back a little bit more. Now I'm getting my walk movement. So I'm half done, and then I can turn it into a loop. Now if I hit play, you can see it's in super slow motion, but because these keyframes, now that I have them, I can just pull them over if I need, as needed. Build my walk. And now we can see, go here. Now he's walking pretty fast. Maybe I want to slow that down. Maybe not every frame, but pull those out a little bit more. And it's just a matter of now finessing and fine-tuning it until you end up with what you feel is a decent cycle. And your goal and homework is to build something more than a stick man that we then end up with a walking character. And once we have this walking character, then we can now take and we can add a peg to a peg. And it's common when you're doing this is you have that peg kind of on the ground directly below a character. That's where you put its kind of master control peg. And now with this, that master control peg, I would then take, if I have a keyframe on it right here, that goes across. Now we're going to animate. Oh, don't want to rotate it now. I translate it. Over. And now we have our character walking. And it's actually looking fairly convincing for half of a step. Now, the good part about doing it this way, using linked layers using pegs, it was much faster than hand drawing these 12 frames. I could have hand drawn my character, and if I was really fast at drawing, which some of you are, you probably could. But to now do all 24 frames you need for your basic walk cycle and make it look good, that's a lot of work. It's much easier and faster. Throw in a bunch of keyframes and then just kind of keep lining them up until you get the result that you're looking for. So now my character is half done. I just need to build out the second half.